Contrary to the hypothesis, MTQ6 total, challenge, and emotional control all policies predict use of acceptance. Yes, this is how you get away from tilt. You don't accept it as in like as a part of the game, but you accept that this is happening right meow, and then you can make plans to address what is happening right meow. If we accept this, this helps us remain grounded in the here and now. So I think acceptance is huge. If you think about other things like when people compare themselves with other people, if they think about the past and what happened, if you talk about, oh no, I'm afraid of all these things, the first step is accepting where you are. I think that's a huge piece of gratitude also, which is probably positively associated with mental toughness. I'm putting that in quotes again. So this piece of this is where I am, this is the status of the game, this is what I have right now, what can I do to make it happen, that make it work mindset. A huge piece of that is acceptance. Acceptance will help you with what's out of your control. That's key. For example, one of the biggest one that's come to my mind is draft. Whenever a team loses a game, the first thing the players point to is draft. Or the first thing fans or whatever will do is point at draft and say, oh, draft was terrible. Whereas instead, I was thinking about it yesterday, what draft is, you ever see like a race on a track? Say it's like a 400, so like one lap around the track. When they start off, they're not all the same line because the track is curved. So lane 8 starts off further because it's a further track versus lane 1, it's more far back because the turns are more sharp. So they actually have a less track on the turn than lane 8 who has a longer turn. Another way to think about this is like orbits and like solar system and stuff like that. Anyway, what draft does, it just places you on the blocks and it sets the difficulty of the game. However, once you go in, the players have to run the race. I think that's the hardest thing. Like you may be starting off in lane 1 and your strategy may be, I have to sprint around the corner first, then get to the mid game and try to pace out the end game. And maybe lane 8 is like, dude, I just gotta keep this lead up, or this lead that I have up, and just kind of coast so I can scale all the way through. And maybe the one in like lane 5 or 6 or 4 and 5, the one that's right in the middle, they have to figure it out like, okay, what are we gonna do? Am I gonna jog off the blocks, trying to pick it up and have a kick at the end? Like really, that's all it does. All draft does is set difficulty. Theoretical difficulty, mind you, because when you do draft, what you're thinking about is if they play this champion optimally or these champion optimally, then it should go like this. However, what people forget is that people operate champions. Champions do not operate champions optimally. People operate champions as optimally as they can. That's what I mean. All draft does is set the blocks for the race. But when the gun goes off, bang, the players have to run the race out. I'm not saying that draft doesn't influence the game or may not be a really big part of the game, because it is. But at the end of the day, it's the players on the field that have to execute the draft. Because you have seen it the other way. One coach draft kingdoms the other, but then the one with the winning draft can't execute the draft, and this one wins. Why? Because they couldn't execute. Theoretically, they were supposed to win, but they couldn't do it, so they did it. I think that's how we have to start thinking about draft and all this kinds of thing for coaches too, and for players. Like, I think players put a lot of emphasis in draft because, again, the acceptance of this is how the draft is going to be, this is the difficulty level of the game, it's hard for players to accept. Or even when you're drafting in your games, when you're ranked games, oh my god, this guy's trolling me, they picked this terrible pick into this other one, they know how to play the matchup. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but at the same time, what you need to accept is that's what they picked. So how are you gonna make this draft work? They